Hello and welcome, it's Debs here with some simple and practical spirituality. I'm going to start today with a quote from Sydney Banks that is an incredibly powerful quote. I've got it written here so that I don't get it wrong. If the only thing people learned was not to be afraid of their experience, that alone would change the world. Wow. Imagine something as simple as that, of not being frightened of what you are experiencing in any given moment. If you could learn that you didn't need to be afraid of that, of your own experience, that would be enough to change everything. So what is it that happens to us? Why is it that we get scared by our own experience? And let's explore a little bit about how we can have a different experience of that and not be afraid in that way. So we experience things via the spiritual gift of thought. So there are, there's stuff, everything that happens, whatever it is. The only reason that we are aware of what happens is because we have the spiritual gift of thought. We can think about stuff and we are awareness experiencing ourself. And the way that we do that is via this spiritual gift of thought. So we have thinking about things. And so it is our own, although it can look like there are a million things that can frighten us, the only thing that we are ever actually afraid of is what is going on in our own minds, our own thinking. And the first thing I'm going to invite you to do is to see that for yourself. On a day-to-day basis, just get curious about what's going on for you when you are frightened of something. Whether it's something small, whatever it is, just get curious about what it is you're frightened of, and begin to notice the thinking that's going on when you feel those feelings. Because understanding that and knowing that, and even if you know this and you feel like you've known it forever, a don't know mind is an amazing place to come back to, and it's a really great reminder to just watch and notice what it is that's going on in your mind when you feel afraid, when something is frightening you. So what happens, as I said, as human beings, we have thoughts. We are thinking creatures. We will never be able to stop. It's a gift and we don't want to. We would stop having experience if we stopped having thinking. So the likelihood that we're going to do that, pretty slim. So we're going to have thinking. But we have tons of thoughts that just come in and go out, come in and go out. And then we have some thoughts that come through our awareness, and for whatever reason we catch hold of them, we think into them, we focus on them, we put our focus onto them. And very often when it is something that is frightening us in our experience, it feels like as this thought passes through, this thought can feel very, very real, and it can feel very irresponsible not to put our focus onto that thought. So I'll give you an example. My grandson is going to be in a school play in the next week or so, and he needs a costume for the school play. And as I used to be a seamstress and do sewing, I offered to make him his costume. And I'm actually clearing out a lot of my fabrics, clearing out a lot of the stuff. And I was arranging with my daughter to make this costume. And then I had this thought, oh my gosh, did I throw the material away that I was going to use to make this costume? That thought drifted through my mind because I'd been doing so much clearing out. And I wasn't at home in that moment. I couldn't check, I couldn't go and have a look. So what happens when a thought like that, when that thought went through my mind, was it looked urgent. It looked like there was something that I needed to do about it. I even had a kind of jolt as that went through me. Oh my gosh, I might not have this fabric to do this job. And what I saw was my focus, that was because it was a jolty thought, because it was a thought that did that to me, it really looked like I needed to give my focus to that thought. Well, what I know from understanding thought, understanding how thought works, is that is pointless, because what is going on in that particular instance, and different things can be going on with different thoughts at different times, but what was going on there was, if I had have thought into that, the next thing that would have happened I would have tried to start to solve a problem that I didn't even know whether I had that problem yet. So it's a little bit like trying to do something that, although in the right moment it's an easy thing to do, when we are trying to jump ahead of time to do that, like if I found out I absolutely didn't have that fabric and then thought, okay, what do we do next? That would have been the perfect time to solve that problem. But when I'm in a space of I don't know if it's this, I don't know if it's this, all that happens is our thinking gets really crazy and we get more and more fearful and go down spiral down more and more rabbit holes. So my experience of that thought in that moment was, I mean, I wouldn't go as far as to say it was scary, but it definitely had that, oh gosh, what am I going to do? And we can have thoughts that literally terrify us in that moment, or thoughts that give us a little bit of a jolt. But simply understanding that thought in and of itself isn't a truth. And if there is something to be done, we will know what to do. And overthinking and thinking into that thought is a pointless exercise. And the more that we understand, as I said, this isn't about control, this is about understanding. Because what I saw in that instance is an older version, a younger version, a previous version of me would have really thought into that and frightened myself with the scenarios of what I was going to do. The costume wouldn't be there, my grandson would be upset about it, on and on and on. My head would have made up all of those things. Understanding, truly knowing and understanding, oh, that's actually not a thought that I want to put my focus on, allowed me to move my focus somewhere else. Now, one of the things that we can do when we have frightening thoughts, we can have thoughts that for whatever reason, maybe through past experience, maybe through something someone has said to us when we were a child, maybe, a million reasons we can have thoughts. They might be sexual thoughts, they might be anxious thoughts, they might be angry thoughts, they might be judgmental thoughts. And feelings, thoughts, it can be either a thought or a feeling. They're like two sides of a coin. But we can have thoughts and feelings that for whatever reason we have made up the rule. And be clear, even if someone else has told us this, we are the ones that have made up the rule inside us. I can't think that. And this is another way that we are caught out, that when we are afraid of our experience, if we have a kind of a thought that drifts through our awareness that we believe for whatever reason we shouldn't be thinking that. And there can be a million reasons why we think we shouldn't be thinking it. But it's kind of too late. If you have that feeling, if you have that thought, it's already happened. So in that scenario, our job, if you like, what we tend to do, so our job is acceptance of that thought. Whereas what tends to happen, and this to me is what Sydney Banks is pointing towards, if we are afraid of our experience, it causes havoc. If we learn not to be afraid of it, it is a game changer, a life changer. So what happens when those kinds of thoughts come in, if we have, for whatever reason, if we reject that thought, believe we shouldn't think it, what happens is resistance. We move straight into resistance. And what we resist persists. What we try to push away, force ourselves not to do. It's a little bit like the old, don't think of a pink elephant, don't think of a pink elephant, don't think about that. Push that out of your mind. The very act of trying to make ourselves not do it actually creates more of that. We think about it more, it is there more. An acceptance of it, an acceptance of ourself, an acceptance of how this system works. This system is a self-cleaning system. Our rejection of things is not how we clean up our system. And so if we resist and push away and try not to think about it, it gets worse. If we accept with as little judgment as we can possibly muster and just, oh yeah, that is what I'm thinking. I don't need to think that. Maybe we could think about something different. There is a whole softer, different way to come at that thought, because the resistance of it, the pushing away of it, spirals us down and creates more of it. And this is because we are the operant power here. We are the ones that whatever, as I said, these thoughts drift across our mind. We are energetic beings. We are energy, and we are part of the energy of everything. And there is tons and tons of energetic, we swim in this energy soup, quantum soup, you might call it. You know, every thought that has ever been is swimming in this environment. Everything we think is swimming around. We are in that all the time. And this is where our thoughts come from, this crisscross web that we live in. So we are capable of pretty much, you know, any thought could land in our mind. If you think of all the radio waves, all the communication waves that are in the air, imagine if you could see those, how many there would be. And we live in this crisscross of this information energy. And so any of these, for whatever reason, we can move into a place where we can interpret them and they can land in our mind as thoughts. And so we can literally think anything in any given moment, and that isn't in our power to change that. That's how we're built. That's what we are meant to do. But understanding that we are the operant power. When something lands in our mind, we have the choice whether we focus on that or resist it or push it away, what we do with it basically. And the more that we understand that, it can often look like a thought can land in your head and bish, bash, bosh, as quick as you like, you've gone down a route with it. And what I see is the more that we understand who we are, the more that we understand how this system works, the more likely it is that we will find a space here and see this choice that we have. Once we know that we are the operant power, we are the ones that are choosing to tune into this thought, to focus on it or to resist it or whatever it is. When we begin to see that we are the operant power, that is when things change. When we stop resisting, when we are accepting, when we go with the flow of what life is doing. Because one of the other things that we begin to understand when we look in this direction is nothing ever happens to us. Everything happens through us and for us. And so if we can develop a curious mind about, you know, whatever it is that's landing in our mind, whatever it is that's going on, it can become like an amazing game to see, okay, if this is for me, what does that mean? That can be a real game changer too, looking at it in this way. Because Sydney Banks nailed it. He was so right when he said, if we are not afraid of our experience, if we are not afraid of these thoughts that pass through us, if we are not afraid of the feelings that we feel, and I know, you know, feelings can be really intense and we really, really feel them. But when we really begin to see that nothing is happening to us, it's always happening through us and for us, we really begin to see that there is nothing here for us to be afraid of. And trust me, that is a huge game changer. I do have more on this that I'm going to share on other videos. If you would like me to go a little bit deeper into this, if you want to know more, drop me a comment below and I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye for now. And thank you for listening.